Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast brought to you by Mossberg. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
We're having a Monday on a Wednesday for some reason. I don't know why. Technology, man. Technology.
Living in Joe Biden's world. Everything's screwed up.
Well, I don't know if he's got anything to do with Skype, but
they probably got their hands in it somewhere.
Blame it on him, sure.
With us today from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, home of some wonderful, wonderful cooking, Miss Madison Sheahan. Madison, how are you doing? Did I pronounce your last name wrong?
You did. No, you said it right.
Okay.
It sounds great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
So I got a little bit of a complaint with Louisiana. After a weekend of that food, I don't know how y'all live there full time. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
The food is just so rich. It's heavy. It's full of flavor. The food is phenomenal. I just could not eat that way 5, 6, 7 days a week.
Would you be fat like me if you lived down there all the time?
I think I'd be sick. It's just that food is just so heavy and dense.
You get used to it, I bet. And you said
You get used to it after a while, but it is some of the best food in the country.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't blame
No,
it.
I'd put it up there with any food group, any regional food that you want to throw at it. I would put Cajun food up there.
there's no comparison.
I've never been to Italy. I've never been to Europe and done all of that thing. But
I don't.
That'd be the only thing that I would.
I think there's a lot of French cooking involved with the Kunas food. It's so good. And you're going to, is it Paul Raines? Is that the name of the place?
Chimes.
It is. Yeah, it's just down the road from us. It's one of the best places down here in Baton Rouge.
Man, their boudin egg rolls are to die for. And I had a shrimp po' boy, and I don't eat shrimp po' boys much anymore, and it was very good because the bread was excellent. Anyways, hats off to Louisiana, best food in the entire world. You, ma'am, are the Secretary of Wildlife and Fisheries. Did I get that right?
You did.
So you're in charge of all the game wardens, everything outdoors you're in charge of, correct?
I am. We've got about 800 people here at the department. We've got about 250 game wardens, and then everybody else is biologists, technicians, veterinarians, and we've got a great department here, and we cover the entire state of Louisiana, manage all of our species, do our non-game and our game, as well as the fisheries and the commercial industry. And so we've got a fantastic department, and I'm really excited to talk about it today.
I can't think of a more diverse state in the entire United States when it comes to things like Texas. We're so big, and we've got elk and stuff and bears, but Louisiana, y'all have got stuff nobody else deals with. Nobody deals with nutria besides y'all, do they?
I'm sure other people see it, but not to the extent of what we have in Louisiana. It's obviously one of our nuisance animals. We have hogs, and I know you see those in Texas too, but we also have, the American alligator. We are the success story of conservation there. We're a success story right now talking about the black bear and bringing that hunting season back. And so as far as the populations of animals, the species we have, and then the opportunity to actually go out and hunt. And one of the things we try to do every day is make sure our species are managed to the point where they can be hunted. And so anytime we can get folks out hunting and fishing and actually enjoying the sportsman's paradise is a huge win for us. And we try to do that every day in the work we're doing here.
What is the long-term plan on the nutria rat? Because it is a rat, right? A swamp rat?
It is. It's a swamp rat. And right now we have a nutrients program where we try to get the bounties back, and we try to get as many people involved in those programs as possible. And we pay for the tails when they come in. And, as far as a long-term strategy, it's something we're working on every day. And it's the same problem with the hogs. They reproduce so quickly, and you're trying every day to combat it, whether it's on our properties or on private lands as well.
What, like the nutria, do the gators not eat those?
They do, but that's not the long-term strategy either. We could release them in areas with gators, but there's not a lot we can do about it.
How did the nutria come to Louisiana? Was that like the Avery Island type deal?
Yeah, so it was actually brought over by a group, and I don't think they expected them to repopulate the way that they have. And now we're looking at a nuisance situation. They eat everything, they tear everything up, and some people try to eat them, and you make sausage out of them, or you can make jerky out of them. But I can tell you I'm not going to be eating Nutri-Rat anytime soon.
Our new guide here, he is from Southern Louisiana, and he brought Nutri-Rat for us to try.
Yes, he can cook it where Andy will like it, he told us.
Well, perfect.
I don't
at least got to try it.
No, I don't think I do. I think I've fall
you
under
gonna
your
pass on
bandwagon.
it?
I think, yeah, I don't want to be rude to the kid, but I'm good. There's some things in this
The
world
only
I
thing
don't
you
need
can
to
bank
try.
on, like you said, is at least in Louisiana, everybody can cook.
Yes.
So you hope that you're going to cook a Nutri-Rat, it tastes pretty good.
Right. I might have incriminated the kid taking that thing across state lines. I don't know.
I don't think there's no laws on them.
What is a Nutri-Rat? How much does it pay per tail?
I believe it's $7 a tail right now is where we sit.
Whoa.
Anytime you bring them in, you get $7 a tail. And a lot of times guys will bring them in, a couple 100 at a time, or try to bring a lot in at once. You can freeze them and bring them in. So we see it pretty often.
All they need to do is bring the tail in to collect their $7.
Yes, just the tail. We don't want the rest of it. So we ask you to get rid of the rest of it, and then we'll take the tail.
I've seen them in New Orleans before, like right by Jackson Square. There's a canal right there, and I've seen them in it before. They're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You see them all over New Orleans.
Is like on a given night, how many Nutri-Rats can somebody kill? Like, could you go kill feasibly like 100 in a night and collect $700 the next day?
You could, yeah. You can get as many as you want. I mean, they're a nuisance animal. They're just like the hogs. As long as you let us know that you're hunting at night, so that way you can notify the sheriff and the game wardens nearby. You're allowed to go out, and essentially you can shoot them any way that you'd like, and just to get rid of them. I mean, it's a big problem. Not a lot of people like to hunt them. So if we got some folks that are willing to do it, we obviously encourage it. But if you're going to do it at night, just let us know, and then we're good to go.
That could be a heck of a side gig for somebody, I mean, if you kill
I think
100 Nutri-Rats in a week, that's an extra $700 a week.
Yeah, and they also have
and I don't know how feasible that is. But.
There's places down there that buy snakes, right? Like for science and stuff. I mean, you can sell snakes, frogs, everything down there, correct?
You can, but we after I believe it's 6 foot on a snake, you have to have a permit, and we don't allow any of the restrictors or venomous snakes in the state after that. We don't want to be in a situation like Florida's in. Obviously, we have a little bit of different of a climate, but we try to make sure that those types of things don't happen. And we've got a lot of marshland, and if those snakes and some things like that, just like the Nutri-Rat, get into those populations, we don't want them to damage any of our native species. And we got plenty of alligators out there and plenty of other things roaming around in the bayous, and so we just don't want to have that situation either.
Yeah, the python in Florida is just it's
out of control.
It's gotten out of control.
It is, and they've had to put a bounty system on them, and they're working really hard to get rid of them. We've had a couple of conversations with their Parks and Wildlife team to see if we can do anything to help. And a lot of the alligator hunters have actually gone to Florida to try to help combat the issue with them. And so luckily we can help out there, but we don't want to be dealing with that kind of problem either.
I don't think they'll ever get rid of that snake problem. I think it's too entrenched now. I think they're stuck with it. And I hope they stay down there.
The only thing you can do is hope that Mother Nature has a way of correcting herself. Like I think Florida is so far gone. That's the only thing that's going to save it.
So it's like some freak
Mother
cold front that would wipe them out.
Something, a disease or something that's going to get them.
It would have to be some kind of cold front or something, because those species, they reproduce so quickly, they kind of damage the environment as soon as they get into them. And like you said, it's almost too far gone for them, but I really hope that they can figure out something. I mean, the Everglades are some of the most amazing property in the world, and so we want to make sure we don't have those kind of issues here in Louisiana.
We had a guy on the podcast a couple of years ago, Python Cowboy, and he's really famous. He's been on just about everything, and he makes a living off of catching pythons and iguanas. And I think he works for the city of Miami, and all he does is kills iguanas all day long. And they must be really out of control in Miami too, the iguanas. So,
I'm sure there's a little bit more than just that out of control in Miami right now too.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot more. You're right about that.
Have you ever been to Miami?
I have not.
It is a wild place. My wife and I got stuck there coming back from vacation. We spent a day there. It is the wildest place that I have ever seen. I mean, at like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's New
Debauchery.
Orleans. Oh my goodness, it's probably worse than New Orleans.
No.
Yeah, it's up there. Miami is a crazy place.
I don't think.
Come spend some time in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, and we'll compare the two after that.
Yeah, Mardi Gras, New Orleans. I've never been there.
I've only been to New Orleans one time during Mardi Gras. Me and Mom were there. What do they call? Is it Fat Tuesday when they started, or is that the end of it?
That's the end.
Okay,
of
what's
it,
the start of it? We were there right at like the day 2 or 3, and.
Okay.
The street food is, first of all, New Orleans doesn't have to have street food because every cafe, dump in the world or fancy restaurant has great food. But they had street food there that was incredible, stuff I'd never seen before anywhere else. It's just Louisiana stuff. And the sights I'm a people watcher, and I love to talk to people, and especially weird people. If you're a weirdo, I'm going to come in a crowd and visit with you because I like talking to people like that. New Orleans is covered up. The sad thing about New Orleans is, and this is from some guys in West Texas, is the crime is so bad down there no more. I don't want to go. And
absolutely. I mean, you hear that from the locals. I mean, folks that have lived in Louisiana their entire lives spend so much time down in New Orleans, and it's really a shame. And I know Governor Landry made it a big priority when we all came in to start cleaning up the city and working on crime reform and justice reform. And, we're working on it day by day. We've got the Super Bowl coming in next year, which is going to be a huge opportunity for the state and really a great opportunity to use it to start cleaning up New Orleans. And state police and as well as our teams are down there working on some of the issues that they have. And so it's really been a statewide effort to head down there and make it somewhere people want to go long after the Super Bowl leaves as well.
Me and my wife used to go to New Orleans every year, and we haven't been in 3 or 4 years. Me and Andy went down there and filmed last year, and we was in Venice, and we went back to New Orleans, and we went to the World War II Museum, which is a beautiful building and a great exhibit, and I wish everyone would go see that. But I don't want to tell no one to go to New Orleans and park and walk down there, especially in the evening time. But it's a beautiful place. Do y'all find that, and I know that this is not wildlife, just crime, the majority of the crime in New Orleans is going to be like all big cities. It's 16 to 25-year-old kids that are committing most of this stuff. Is that correct?
I would say that's exactly correct. I mean, the biggest issue there is, obviously New Orleans PD does their very best to try to combat what they're facing. And we just implemented a new state trooper headquarters there as well. And so they're really trying to work together and bring all these partnerships up. But a lot of it's young kids, which, I always think I'm only 27 years old. And so I was lucky enough that my parents got me into hunting and fishing at a very young age. I grew up in Lake Erie in Ohio, and, having those opportunities really keeps you out of trouble. And so what we do as a department really is one of those things that if more people got involved with hunting and fishing and spent more time in Venice, like you were saying, they probably wouldn't be in so much trouble.
Oh, yeah. Lack of dads.
Yeah, it's fatherlessness is the main issue.
Problem. But
in my mind.
You said it. What's neat is you're putting a trooper in there, state patrol, highway patrol. In Texas, I'm a retired judge here in a small town. Every time that we had anything that happened that was pretty big or a tragic event or whatever it was, you'd have some young thugs around. Every little town's got them and stuff, and they'd get mouthy with the local cops. When a state trooper pulls up, them boys shut up. They automatically have respect for the highway patrol or scared of them at least. And maybe that will help in New Orleans more than anything. Are you having trouble hiring game wardens now? Because I know all over the country it's huge. Like a lot of big cities are 30 and 40% down on their officer numbers. Are y'all facing that in Louisiana?
We are. I mean, I think it's an issue nationwide with law enforcement. I mean, after 2020, I think what you're seeing is most people don't want to go in law enforcement. I mean, look how our law enforcement has been treated and trying to defund the police and do all of these things that we should have never done. And, when we all came into the department, we've seen that we're down about 30 game wardens. And so what we want to do is hold an academy here soon. We try to use different things as a recruiting tool and just talking about what we do as a department. And state police is seeing the same issue. And Governor Landry actually passed a couple bills this last session that really backed the police officer and kind of went in the opposite direction of the previous administration that was in here and said, we're going to back our police officers. We're going to support them and make sure that they have the tools and resources needed. And this year we were actually able to pull off the first enforcement pay raise for our division, our game wardens, in over 12 years. They hadn't received a pay raise from the previous administration, and except for, a small market adjustment. But that goes to show you that they're not investing in these game wardens the way they should have been. And our enforcement division, I put them against anybody in the country. They do a fantastic job. This diverse sportsman's paradise is really worth protecting, and that's their main job. And we have great biologists who kind of lead and guide the science and the regulations, and then they're out there enforcing it. And I always tell people, a game warden, every time they walk up to somebody, they probably have a gun on them. They're hunting, they're fishing, they're doing all of these things. So it's not an easy job to be able to be a game warden. So anytime somebody comes and we can recruit them and get them into our ranks, it's a great opportunity. And I don't know if you've ever seen, but we have LA Law, which was a huge recruitment tool for us. And when Animal Planet had, I believe they got bought out, but when they got bought out, they stopped doing the show here in Louisiana. But, that's a great recruitment tool, too, to really tell what a game warden does on a daily basis as well.
So they took that off the air. The only show that I would have watched on that whole channel, they took off. Is Lone Star Law still on, or are they going to take it off, too?
I think Lone Star is still on and Yellowstone Law is still on. And so they do have a couple of them, but they kind of cut some of the smaller states, which that was prior to us taking over in January. And so we weren't able to go back and negotiate those contracts. But it's definitely something that's a huge recruitment tool, because I think most people don't realize what a game warden does on a daily basis, or, you don't necessarily know the kind of interaction you're going to have with them. It's a statewide law enforcement officer, but, they're there to protect and manage these resources that we have, as well as keep others hunters and fishermen safe.
The Louisiana Law and the Yellowstone Law were my two favorites. Like Lone Star Law, I know a couple of game wardens have been on there, and our game warden's a really good friend of ours. I mean, personal friends. We're good friends with him, and always have been with my local game wardens. But I love the Louisiana Law because it was stuff that we don't see in West Texas. And I love the Yellowstone Game Warden show because they deal with so much, the elk, the grizzly bear stuff we don't, the shed hunters, all the stuff that we don't have. And I found it really interesting. What's the pay scale starting out for Louisiana Game Warden right now? Fresh out of the academy.
Fresh out of the academy, we're moving them up. They're going to sit at 53,000 and 56,000, and then they'll see a market adjustment every year after that. And we have about 5 ranks within our division, all the way up to colonel. And so there's a much better scale, and that actually matches the state police scale. So it's essentially statewide law enforcement all sees something very similar as far as pay, and that makes us very competitive in these southern states for game wardens as well. Obviously, Texas is a much bigger state, much bigger budget, but it at least gets us competitive with a lot of these other states when we're talking about trying to recruit and engage young people into the law enforcement career here in Louisiana.
I know that the city of Austin, Texas, used to have a contract, and I think it still does, that its police department has to be within the top 3 of the highest paid departments with anyone that's got more than 50 officers or something. And I'm picking the 50 officers out of there. I don't remember what it was exactly. And they can't hire police officers. And I think their police officers in Austin, some of them are making close to 6 figures a year. And they cannot hire a police officer in Austin, Texas. Now, the cost of living in Austin, Texas is humongous. And if you want to live in Austin, Texas, you might as well move to San Francisco, California, because it's the same shithole, other than it's the state of Texas. So the money is not, but what I'm getting at is even when you pay really good money, good living wages where people can have a good life, it's hard to get people in law enforcement these days.
It is. You're exactly right. It's very difficult. And we're trying to recruit all kinds of folks that want to get involved. In what you realize about Louisiana is that this is a sportsman's paradise, and that hunting and fishing really is a culture thing. And so being able to engage with people at that level is something that, as a law enforcement officer, is really a great opportunity. But it also is hard to recruit people into that, because when you're working in parishes that your friends and family and you grew up in, it makes a big difference too. It builds those stronger relationships, but sometimes it makes it more difficult. And, a lot of people, like I said, every person you walk up to is going to have a gun in their hand. And so trying to recruit somebody into that after what's happened over the last, say, 5 years with the current administration that's in the White House, it's definitely difficult to recruit people into these careers.
Are you worried that if this next administration comes in with knee pads and whack job for Minnesota gets in office, how much worse it's going to get?
I am. I think that for us and a conservation level, there's always a big difference of, a different kind of conversation when it comes to politics and conservation. And I had the opportunity when I graduated from college to go work for President Trump in Ohio. I was on his campaign in Ohio. And, you really get engulfed in politics when you're working at a swing state, and then you go out and work for a governor like Governor Noem in South Dakota. Well, Walls is right next to South Dakota. And when half the state of Minnesota wants to join South Dakota, that can tell you right now what it looks like if he becomes next vice president of the United States.
Well, that guy is a complete whack job. I didn't know nothing about him. I know that I think Minnesota goes red in this next election. And I thought that before they even picked him. People there have had enough of this crap. And I feel bad for those people, especially the people that don't live in Minneapolis, that whole state. That guy is way out there. I mean, he hates cops. He hates a family. He don't like none of that stuff, and that's not good. And
I think you're exactly right. These guys, they don't care about the American people. They're going out and they're pushing their own agenda. They've picked a presidential candidate behind closed doors, behind the smoke and mirrors, and told the American people that they were transparent. They've set a precedent that you can remove your candidate right before an election if you think he's going to lose. And, you never know what kind of cover up is actually happening in the White House right now. And, as a conservation agency, we work with the federal government on a daily basis. And when we have the opportunity to work with the feds and, a new administration is going to help us be able to move this organization forward. But, getting Walz in the White House and Kamala back in the White House is not going to be a good thing for the American people.
No, and American people, we're just regular people here. We don't work through government or anything. No one has any trust for the government. The federal government, like if you come in, if I saw someone and they told me my son worked for the FBI or my son was a ditch digger, I'd be more proud their son was a ditch digger than the FBI. And we shouldn't be that way. But no one has any trust for the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, IRS, any of those things. Nobody has any faith in them anymore. And we get sick of more and more of it. But it wasn't just the election coming up now. In 2020, Joe Biden, everybody dropped out that was beating him, so he could be their candidate. They've done this in 2020. Then they hit him the whole time that he was supposed to be campaigning. He didn't ever get out and about. They used COVID as an excuse. And now Kamala is 17 days in and hasn't had an actual news conference where people could ask her questions. Something's wrong. And we need Donald Trump more than we've ever needed anybody in our life. And what's scary is I don't know if they would have gotten the assassination done on Donald Trump, and you're going to have a hard time convincing most people in America that wasn't a set up deal. Who's going to be our candidate after that can save America? I mean, I don't know if J.D. Vance is that guy or not, but I know that right now we are in bad shape.
That's the thing is President Trump wakes up every day and he fights for the American people. And you can agree with everything he says and you can disagree with everything he says. But he's a guy who could be sitting on the golf course every single day. But instead, he's out working for the American people. His kids are out working for the American people. We've had Don Jr. spent time in Louisiana hunting and fishing, and they care about the everyday American. And he's never hidden who he was. He's always been up forth and up front, and at least where he stands with his decision making. I had the opportunity to work for Governor Noem for many years, and now working for Governor Landry. That you can agree with those governors, you can disagree with them, but at least you always know where they stand and the decisions they're going to make, and you know that they are doing the best job they can to fight for the people in their states. And when you see such a drastic difference between two states like South Dakota or Minnesota, and you see such a difference in their economy, their people, the health of the people, the opportunities they have for growth and for young people, it makes a really big difference of what you want and the kind of precedent you want to set in America for the future and for the next generation to really be able to take over and lead this country.
But Minnesota and South Dakota have the same people outside of Minneapolis.
Absolutely. You're exactly
right. They're just good home, and that's what they're trying to portray this guy as. Oh, he's a good Midwestern guy with Midwestern values. No, he's not. He's a fucking radical. But people in Minnesota, I've got tons of clients in Minnesota and tons of friends. They are just like everyone I know in South Dakota. They think alike. Then you get into little Mogadishu or whatever it is in Minneapolis, and it goes to crap. Ely, Minnesota's got a lot of liberals, but you get outside of Ely and everybody's the same as us. And it's just a shame we've gotten to that point. Y'all have a senator from Louisiana that's one of my favorites, Senator Kennedy. Have you had the pleasure of meeting him yet?
I have. I've spent quite a bit of time with him and his staff, and he's obviously a big advocate of what we do in this office. And, he helps us fight on the federal level, whether it's for funding or more conversations with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or if it's with NOAA or some of these federal partners. I mean, he's out there fighting for Louisiana every day, and we see that in the work that he does and what he produces for the state.
He's a wonderful man. He is my favorite politician in the world. And he could hang out and sit in this office and be one of us. That's the way he comes across on TV. He may not be that way in person, but he seems like a down-to-earth guy with a lot of common sense.
He is just like that in person, and he's been in politics for quite a while, but a guy like that has never really lost his touch to his roots of Louisiana. And I think that's what's so special really about Louisiana as a whole, whether you're talking about Governor Landry, Senator Kennedy, and a lot of these other folks. I mean, we work all the time with Congresswoman Julie Letlow, who is another great example of somebody who duck hunts when the season rolls around, who spends a lot of time in the blind with her kids and her family, and obviously loves the state of Louisiana and has that authentic touch to everything that they do to make the best decisions for their people.
So how did you get on this career path that you're on now? You said you grew up in Ohio, went to college. What steps did you take to get to where you are?
So I grew up in Northwest Ohio, and I grew up hunting and fishing. We grew up about a mile off of Lake Erie, and so spent a lot of time on the lake, a lot of time at deer camps, and we raised pheasants growing up, and I grew up on a farm. And so we were always kind of ingrained in everyday politics. When your parents own family businesses, you're interacting with politics on a daily basis with no matter how much it costs to put food on your table at night, or the work product that they're selling. I grew up plumbing and pipe fitting, and so that's where my family comes from. And so doing that, you kind of learn a lot about life and growing up in businesses and things like that. And I had the opportunity to go to Ohio State. I studied public affairs and agribusiness and was actually a rower at the Ohio State University. We won a couple championships, which was an incredible opportunity. And as a team captain, was able to lead part of that team with a group of other women to those championships. And so it was really an honor to be able to do that. And then when I graduated, I had the opportunity to go work for President Trump. And I had always loved politics, but I had always loved agriculture and the outdoors and really what it meant to be an American, these small towns, growing up on a farm and businesses and kind of living out the American dream every day that my parents gave to us. And so got to do that for President Trump and actually met Governor Noem while I was working in Ohio. And so she asked if I would move out to South Dakota and join her staff. And I joined her staff and worked right away on wildlife policy, agriculture policy, and I was actually helping her with the women's sports bill as well. It's something that's, as a college rower, was something very near and dear to my heart. It was something that I think Riley Gaines is forefronting right now, and she's done an incredible job, not only for the Republican Party, but for all women in athletics that believe that women's sports should be kept to women's sports, and defending that for the next generation to come. And had the opportunity to then go on and help Governor Noem with her reelection campaign, as well as work on some of our political adventures and her political accounts that she had, and work for the state party. And in that time, had the opportunity to meet Governor Landry. And when he won in October, he asked if I would come join him on his transition team. And when we really started to dive into each one of these agencies, I obviously love hunting and fishing, have always been a part of it, and had run these organizations for Governor Noem. And when Governor Landry asked me to dive into these agencies, I really felt that the issues that were being faced here at the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries was something I could help him with. And when he asked me to take over the department, I'm the youngest secretary to ever hold this job. I'm the first female to ever hold this job. And so it's really been an extraordinary opportunity. We built an incredible team around us with folks with all kinds of experience, and really tried to get things done from day one. Our biggest goal was to make sure that we really rebranded the organization as a whole, that we had to talk about Republican politics and conservation. The Dems sometimes think they have a cap on conservation issues, that we can't talk about them as Republicans. And there's a lot of good ways to talk about them. We manage species better here at the state level than the federal government can do from Washington, D.C. So giving us those kind of flexibilities with our different management practices, and being able to really highlight the work our enforcement agents are doing when they've previously been pushed to the side, and really kind of reshape and rebrand what you think about a Louisiana sportsman's paradise every day that we put to work here.
I've got a follow-up question talking about the federal and the state levels. In the state of Texas right now, the feds are trying to buy up a bunch of property to make bigger wildlife refuge. I'm all for more refuges and stuff like that. They're wanting to go. There's a 7,000 acre refuge in West Texas outside of Lubbock called Muleshoe, and it holds, was it 20% of all the sandhill cranes, Andy, is that we found out?
15 or 20.
15 or 20. Let's say 15% of all the sandhill cranes in the nation winter there. And they're wanting to expand it to 700,000 acres. They've set $1 billion up to it. They're going to do it through eminent domain, but they passed a law where there won't be any more farming practices on wildlife refuges. I have said on this podcast for the last 3 years that when the federal government gets their teeth more in, they're going to kick all hunters out of all federal land. And I still believe that. I think it's coming down the road. It may be 2 years, but it may be 15 years, but it's coming if the Democrats are in charge. Is there any of that going on in Louisiana where they're trying to buy up land to set it aside?
So what they're doing it under is this new America Beautiful thing that's a part of the Biden administration green infrastructure bills that I think they're calling it 30 by 30, trying to get 30% of the land by 2030.
Wow.
And we haven't necessarily seen it so much in Louisiana. I know it's coming here. Where I really did see it, though, was in South Dakota. A lot of those western states are having an even bigger impact by it than you're even seeing in Texas. But I completely agree with you that this is one of their ways to try to get hunters out. And we talk all the time that a lot of times what the federal government wants is for us to be able to manage these species and then never be able to hunt and fish them. And that's not really the way these were designed. These animals have been hunted and fished by people for many, many years. And, we are some of the best stewards of the land. Some of our hunters, our agriculturists are the best conservationists. And, we're the ones doing a lot of the day-to-day work, and being able to, and kicking a hunter off of those properties just isn't good business.
They're wanting 30% of the land.
Well,
they probably already own 20% or something because there's so many Western.
28.
Okay, so they're just trying to pick up 2% more.
Right.
Okay, that sounds like a lot, but then you start thinking about the Western states, and there's a big portion of those as federal
most of
land.
Nevada is federal land. A good portion of Utah, Arizona.
That puts pretty much right there, sums up Nevada. There's nothing out there worth the shit, and the federal government owns most of it. So there you go.
A lot of it in Alaska is federal land too.
And that's good land there.
Nothing there.
So, but y'all aren't dealing with this in Louisiana then.
So we're not necessarily seeing it right now, but not to say it's not coming into this area. We've got a lot of refuges here. We have a national forest here. We have Scottsdale National Forest and a lot of other properties, and we're seeing some impact on those. But overall, we've had a pretty good relationship with those managers of those properties. And so I think if something was coming, we would see it, but we just haven't seen a great length of it yet.
I'm going to switch it up now to waterfowl for a second. The state of Louisiana is famous for waterfowl hunting. There are probably per capita waterfowl hunters there more than anywhere else that I can think of in the United States. But a lot of people there want to blame the lack of mallard ducks on the hot cropping or the flooded corn and stuff, when in reality, y'all's sugarcane numbers are going out through the roof, and that's where there's no more food sources for those birds like there used to be. Is the state doing anything to implement on that to try to, put in more grain or anything, or y'all just status quo?
So a lot of what we're doing so Governor Landry is a huge duck hunter. And so when we took over, one of the things we wanted to make sure was we prioritized our duck hunters and the work that they're doing every day. And a lot of that comes from the land management practices that really start with us at the department. We manage about 1.7 million acres of land, and we're looking at different management practices. I think what you're seeing is exactly what you're talking about, the change of agriculture practices to kind of catch up with and chase the economy that we're seeing these days are having a big impact on the land management and the habitat for our ducks. And so I think that's why you're seeing a lot of the issues. And we've been working with a lot of our different state partners, your Ducks Unlimited, your Delta Waterfowl, to be able to see what we can change and manage those practices and make sure that when we own a piece of property, the private lands around it really model those same land management practices and see if we can do what's best for those properties. And sugarcane obviously has a big impact, not only in the economy in Louisiana, but also on a much greater scale of the duck management. And Louisiana profits about $450 million a year off of the duck hunter. And so we usually see about 50,000 duck hunters a year that come here in Louisiana. A lot of them born and raised, a lot of them come in for a weekend to our different hunting camps and, want to see the sportsman's paradise and have been duck hunting here for years. But we shoot about 900,000 ducks a year. And that's a huge number that not a lot of other states see. And so we're still seeing an increase in duck hunting. But we have to do a better job as a department to really talk about those management practices. And we've got some fantastic property on the coast that's home to some of the best duck hunting in the world. And we're very proud of that. But managing those private lands around it is going to be a goal of ours to make sure we're engaging as many stakeholders as possible to be able to make the best duck habitat possible.
It's a tough hill to climb, especially like when you got, farmers don't make a ton of money, and if they can make more money or add the same amount of money on sugarcane. I don't know anything about the farming practices. I don't know what's more labor intensive, sugarcane versus rice or anything like that. But
farmers are going to do what's going to make them the biggest profit.
Yeah.
And we talked a couple of weeks ago. We had some guys on that were in the solar energy with these new solar panels and stuff. And I misquoted. I said people were getting $1,000 an acre, 20-year contract. And a guy from Mississippi messaged me and he said, no. He said their farmers in Arkansas and Louisiana are getting $3,500 an acre to put it in solar. Well, you can't blame a farmer for not doing that. I mean, 100 acres is $350,000 a year for 20 years doing nothing. And I don't blame these people, but it's not good for wildlife.
It's not good for wildlife, though.
You're exactly right. What you're seeing is that these large corporations are coming in and either paying out farmers to farm a certain thing, or even the federal government is, which, that's where a lot of these subsidized crops come in. And, we have a great agriculture department here in Louisiana. But, building those partnerships, we can't outbid a lot of these farmers, and we can't outbid for some of this land. Partners like Ducks Unlimited and Delta allow us to have, maximize our numbers and what we're trying to do. But when you get those kind of offers as somebody who grew up farming and around agriculture, I completely understand the position these farmers are in. I mean, they have to put food on the table too.
Yeah, and farming's tough. I mean, farm diesel sky high. Cost of grain is down right now. I saw a stat the other day, and my dad used to talk about this when he was alive. When he was a kid in the 1960, we'll say, wheat was $3 a bushel, let's say. Farm diesel was 10 cents a gallon or 5 cents a gallon. Now farm diesel is $2.53 a gallon, and wheat's $4 a bushel. So you're not making any money. I mean, it's just I feel sorry for the farmer. I don't feel sorry for the solar people at all, but I understand why a farmer does business with them. I'm totally against subsidizing anything. If things can't stand on their own, they're not making it. These windmills that we see all over our country out here with you, and you drive by one that's been in here 5 or 10 years, and they're black on the outside from all the what do you call that? The fluid that they're putting in them to make them spin, all the oil, everything that goes in them to do it. And then they promote all this green energy bullshit, which it's not green energy, but it's not good for the environment. And if it stood on its own, it would not be a profitable thing. Y'all are not covered up with windmills in Louisiana, are y'all?
We are not. I mean, not at all compared to, like I said, like living out in South Dakota, they're all over the place.
Yes.
And so luckily we're not faced with it that way. And to be honest with you, I think when you're talking about a duck hunter and a lot of the management of the property we have in Louisiana, I can't imagine that's something that the people of Louisiana are ever going to want. I know that it obviously can cause a lot of damage. And like you said, when you were subsidizing something from the federal government just to make it last, when these energy taxes and sort of things are being put in place, it's not necessarily green energy. I mean, when they're done with those windmills, they just bury them in the ground. There's no actual way to get rid of them. There's no second use for them. And so when you're talking about an environmental impact, it's just like these car batteries. You can't get rid of them. You have to bury them in the ground or put them somewhere and hope that they disappear, in 10 million years or whatever stat they're telling us now of what we're going to do with them. And, that's just not good management practices either. I mean, that's what you're going to see from the current administration that's in the White House. And if, President Trump doesn't get in, we're just going to keep seeing more of that.
Be a good face for Nevada.
This is totally off topic, but there's a video going around. A dog had one of those little lithium batteries. Have you seen this video?
No, and I probably don't want to.
Dog's chewing on a lithium battery, and like it breaks the seal, for lack of a better term, and it starts a fire in that dog's bed. But evidently, like if a lithium battery is like punctured like that, there's such a transfer of heat and energy that it can cause a fire. There's two dogs and a cat, and they're just watching this house catch on fire. Luckily, they got out via like a pet door, but I did not know that about lithium batteries.
I know the cars, like if one of the Tesla vehicles catches on fire,
right. It's gone.
It's 8 hours to get it out though, and you can't put water on it. You can't do. I mean, it's not good. But the people that are making decisions don't care about what's good. They care about their pocketbook, and that's why we're in this situation. There's no way that Ford Motor Company is going to lose $1 billion a year on a car and keep making it. That's why they quit making the Edsel. If you're losing money, you don't keep producing it. But they get paid so much money for the federal government that's why we got these cars and everything else. It's good to see a state like Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, because they've got a great governor now. Oklahoma. These places is the last hope for our country if we lose this election.
You're exactly right. And, when I was working for Governor Noem, and even Governor Landry talks about it all the time, that these states are really kind of an incubator and a test pilot project for Republican politics, for conservation issues, for conservative issues. And being able to really do that at the state level, these governors are CEOs. They're able to make decisions every day that affect the people of their state. When you're living in DC and you're just making decisions from DC, you don't necessarily know what's impacting everyday Americans. And these governors have worked very hard against an administration that doesn't necessarily want to work with them, and gotten a lot done in their states. And through COVID, through the last 4 years of this administration, and really tried to make a difference for their states. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is doing a fantastic job in Arkansas. You've got Governor Stitt in Oklahoma, Governor Landry here, Governor Abbott in Texas. There's really a lot of great examples of what conservative policies can do for everyday Americans. And really, if you're looking at economies that are growing, it's in those states. You look at duck hunting that's growing, it's in those states. I mean, the biggest impact on the American people in a positive direction is really coming from Republican states right now. It's not coming from California. It's not coming from these other states.
Did you see where the district attorney in Harris County, which is Houston, Texas, the biggest county in Texas, probably one of the most populous counties in the United States outside probably of LA County, their Democratic district attorney endorsed Ted Cruz yesterday?
Really?
Yep.
I did not see that.
Said bipartisan, we've got to fix this stuff, this crime, and I'm endorsing Ted Cruz. That shocks me. And I'm sure the people that are running the deep state in the Democratic Party are having a fit over that. But this is a lady in Harris County that was it is the setting district attorney for there. And she endorsed Ted Cruz yesterday, and she is a Democrat.
Wow.
And that shocked me. That really did, because Democrats don't ever cross party lines. They're the most loyal people in the world.
Right.
They are. They are either blackmailed, threatened, or stupid, but they all stick right to their guns. They don't ever break ranks. So, and Corey, what's her name? The weird chick in St. Louis, the squad member, she got beat yesterday.
Oh, she did.
She got primaried out. She's done. So they got some other Democrat going to be there, but it's a guy. But you know why she lost? She lost because the Israelis, the Israelis Foundation put a bunch of money in to beat her. And that's why they didn't take Josh Shapiro as a vice president. They went with the whack job in Minnesota because they did not want a Jewish guy as the vice president.
Well, I think what you're going to see from the Democrats is obviously a lot of these attacks are coming and a lot of these groups are putting money into these races. But I think you're going to see them kind of shift. I think the everyday American doesn't necessarily want the policies and the things that they're pushing. I think that's why you're seeing Joe Biden, right before he got out of the race, try to push some kind of border policy. I mean, you guys are dealing with that in Texas. And it's only a matter of time of how long the Texas economy can sustain that. I mean, until we get somebody like President Trump in the White House that's willing to do a lot of that work, it makes a big difference in what we do every day and the decisions that we're able to make in states. When you're running a state agency like we are, we're essentially running a small business. I report to Governor Landry directly, and he's the CEO of the state, and I serve as over the CEO of this organization as the head of the wildlife and fisheries department. And it makes a big difference to the decisions we're able to make. And as we see kind of this shift happen in our political climate over the next 120 days, I think you're going to see things that we haven't seen in a long time come out of Washington, D.C. and really come out of the states as a whole. And like you said, they're not even taking any questions right now. They're not answering for the decisions that they've made. They've tried to cover up failed border policies. I mean, we had a situation a couple weeks ago where a group of illegal immigrants were out fishing on our waters and took almost 10 times the limit of red snapper that you're allowed to have on your boat, mostly undersized. And that's just one example of the impact that these policies have on the work that we do at this department that people don't even realize. When we have folks that aren't following the law and taking from the resources that we have here in Louisiana, it doesn't allow the people that are following the law to have the resources that they need. And that's something that, it even comes into our office. Again, a lot of people don't want to have a conversation about politics and conservation, but and pretty much say the Dems have a head on that they have all this green energy and, climate change and all of these things that they're pushing. But, we have the same impact on conservation as they do. And being able to tell our story is something that's going to be really important. And I'm sure you guys know this, but most hunters are not registered to vote.
No, I know that.
Get many people out there to vote as possible. Hunter Nation has a huge impact right now to be able to get people registered to vote. The folks that own guns that hunt and fish every day, most of them are not registered to vote. And that's going to be a huge difference maker in this election.
Yeah, we've got to get out and vote. The state of Texas has put these floating balls in the Rio Grande, and it's deterred because you can't get to the bank, and there are miles of them now. Well, the federal government has fought them on this. Of course, they don't want it to go away. If they really cared about us, they would be putting them out. Well, the Supreme Court or someone come out and said, no, they're allowed to do that. You watch in the next 60 days, immigration coming into Texas is going to be way down because of them balls, and Kamala and them are going to take precedence, and they're going to say that they did it. I just mark my words. They're going to try to take that. They're going to try to make it in favor of themselves.
Well, they're going to close the border down in September.
Yeah, and then
it's going to happen.
And then they're going to say,
and Kamala's going to be the one that is going to get up there and say that she was the one that did it, because she's got this borders are thing, which she's trying to back away from. But mark my words, before the election, the border will be closed. And that's going to be her victory going into elections.
That's your prediction?
Yes.
My prediction is Biden is going to get out of the White House by October 1st so they can put
so that she can have some.
Her and Knucklehead are going to be the vice president and president for a month before the election happens. Just they're going to be so desperate they're going to go that. It doesn't matter. In a fair election, they don't have a chance of winning anyways. So when the federal government does stuff like this, do y'all have any way of fighting back on them on something that is not good for Louisiana?
So we have lots of ways to fight back. So Governor Landry is obviously was the attorney general here in Louisiana and put some of the biggest lawsuits against the federal government. And obviously we have the way to fight back through the courts. We also have the ability as an independent agency within the state of Louisiana to oftentimes make comment on some of the federal regulations and things like that when, say, they're bringing down limits on snapper or some of these other federally regulated species. We've been heavily advocating to get control of as many of those federally regulated species here at the state level. Like I said earlier, we just want to make sure that DC doesn't know how we need to manage our waters, and our waters are different than Texas waters are and Mississippi waters are. And we want to make sure that all of us in the Gulf have the ability to manage the species the best way that we can for the waters that we're facing and the environment that we're facing. And, you know, Governor Landry is a huge supporter of the state of Louisiana. He is one of the best governors we've seen here in Louisiana in a very long time. Somebody who's just a staunch supporter of the Constitution, of the rule of law, and being able to make sure that things are done right in the state. And you've seen a lot of reform and a lot of change from him over the last 6 to 8 months that we've been in office. And, you know, seeing those impacts that he has had, as well as Liz Murrill, our attorney general, who's gotten a lot done as well, and kind of leading the charge that Governor Landry left his office with. And, you know, the team that we have here in Louisiana is fighting for the people of Louisiana every day, whether it's for our duck hunters or it's for, you know, the single moms or the kids in schools that we're trying to make sure they have the best education possible.
So we've come a long way from Huey Long, is what you're saying.
We have come a long way since Huey Long.
Does New Orleans still have the crooked mayor? Or did they get rid of her?
So there is a mayor down there that I would say fits into that category, yes.
Yeah, she spends a whole lot of money doing a whole lot of traveling on the city of New Orleans' budget, if that's the lady I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think they've been calling it a lot of it the Super Bowl prep travel. So we'll see what kind of Super Bowl they roll out. I know Governor Landry is doing a lot of the work on that. Our state police is very active down there. And, you know, even our DEQ, DNR, all of these state agencies are spending a lot of time down there, including us, to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that the people that are going to come and enjoy New Orleans, enjoy the state of Louisiana, have the best opportunity possible to do that.
Well, New Orleans has a Super Bowl about every 4 years, so that's not nothing new for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's crazy because New Orleans is not a really big town. Everybody, you know, it's 500,000 people maybe live there or less. It's not a big city populace wise. Yeah,
it's not very big. Most of it's tourists that come in and out. There are a lot of families that have been there forever, and they, you know, are very proud of that city as we are. And it's something that we want to see cleaned up and a new opportunity to be able to bring folks in. I mean, you drive through New Orleans to get some of the best fishing in the world. You go to the mouth of the river in Grand Isle, Venice, and a lot of these places that we've talked about today, that's the best fishing in the world. And you fly into New Orleans oftentimes to be able to get to it. And, these are great opportunities to be able to attract people to the state of Louisiana to enjoy our resources that we have that are so diverse and so incredible and that make us a sportsman's paradise.
Venice, Louisiana is unlike any place I've ever been in my life. Never.
It's some of the best in the world.
Yeah, I've been to Alaska. I've been on the West Coast. I've been East Coast. I've been to small towns all over, little fishing villages, and there's nothing like Venice, Louisiana, because it's not commercialized. You can't even hardly find a place to sleep or eat there. And it is the best fishing in the world.
It is the best fishing in the world. And, the folks that have had camps in Venice and camps in Grand Isle and all these places on the coast have had them for years and generations after generations. The culture in Louisiana is so deep into the sportsman's paradise and the roots that we have here. And it's really something we try to highlight every day, to be able to let people know that you can come and enjoy our resources. But the culture of the people and the fishing and everything that we have in Louisiana is unlike any place else in the world.
Do you miss seasons?
I do. Absolutely. It's been very hot here for me. And growing up in Ohio, it's obviously a big difference. My dad was out on his boat yesterday and sending some photos of walleye fishing with him and my brother, and they were in sweatshirts and shorts. And I don't think I'm going to be putting a sweatshirt on here anytime soon. That's for sure.
No,
it's miserable hot down. We're hot here. I think it was 110 here yesterday, which it's been a miserable last 2 weeks. Before that, it wasn't bad, but it was nice for us to go to Louisiana because it was rainy and cooler, but the humidity is just terrible.
It is. It's been unreal the last couple of days, and it's been very hot. Same thing we're seeing all around the Gulf, and obviously it makes a big impact on being able to be outdoors, but it's something we enjoy and love to do. So we'll be getting back out there here soon.
Saturday, I walked out of the show, and that heat and humidity hit me like it was a gut punch because I'd been in that air-conditioned room all day, and we left for the day to go eat or whatever, and it just smacked me. I was like, what in the hell is this? Like, I took a step back. It hit me so hard.
Every day down there.
Miserable.
Every day it's like that down here.
Oh, it was so awful. My glasses fogged up, and I was like, what in the hell are we doing here?
Y'all got so many neat places, too. Have you been to Natchitoches yet?
We have been down there. We spent some time all over the state. One of the things we wanted to do when we first came in as an executive team is visit all of our offices, all of our property, and spend time throughout the whole state. And that's what we've done. We're going to get back out on the road again here soon. We had a great legislative session that we just got through, had a lot of good things like Delta Waterfowl come in town and all of these big events. And so we wanted to really enjoy those and be able to tell the story of the sportsman's paradise. And then from there, we're going to spend a lot of time getting back out in the field. We've got teal season that starts here soon. We got alligator season as well coming into play. And then we'll obviously go to the bigger ducks, the mallards, and things like that shortly after that, deer season. And so we're really kicking off kind of the sweet spot of Louisiana. It's almost like, the time of year where baseball is going on, basketball is going on, football is happening, and all the sports are going on. Well, we're hitting that sweet spot in Louisiana where almost every season is about to be opened. And, we're seeing a lot of a great environment, a great habitat management happening. To be able to see some really good years, not only for duck hunting, but for deer, alligator, and everything like that.
Now, earlier in the show, you mentioned that the alligator is a great conservation story. I don't know anything about that. Were they mismanaged for a long time? Was there a lot of overhunting going on with the alligator?
So the American alligator was actually brought back a lot by the landowners here in Louisiana. And so what happened was the alligator went on the endangered list, and there was a great concern of what would happen to the future of the species. And working with landowners and farmers, and we were able to really bring back that species to be able to have a hunting season. We issue tags every year. We issue probably a couple thousand tags a year. I don't necessarily know the number right off the top of my head, but it's close to about 3,000 tags a year. And we're actually able to have that as a hunting season. The same conservation success story actually is happening right now in the state of Louisiana In the 60s, the Louisiana black bear was taken to the point where it was put on the endangered list. And over the course of the work of this department, long before I got here and long before my team got here, we were able to actually work with landowners, work with different bear management across the country, and be able to bring the American black or the Louisiana black bear to the point where we can have a hunting season. This past legislative session, we actually finalized some lawsuits with the federal government to be able to have a hunting season on the black bear. We were able to pass the legislation needed to be able to implement the season. And coming up this December, we'll be able to shoot black bears for the first time in Louisiana. There'll be 10 tags issued throughout the state, and we will see a season for the very first time, which is an incredible opportunity to be able to talk about the fact that most of the time when something goes on the endangered list, it doesn't ever get off of it. You see that throughout the country. And we've been able to do it not only once, but twice, and have hunting seasons for both the alligator and the black bear.
So the feds were not wanting to issue a hunting season on the bear?
So they actually were considering it and working with us on it, and Safari Club International stepped in on the lawsuit. The lawsuit was actually with a group out of California, I believe, that wanted to stop the hunting season from going in place. So Safari Club stepped in on behalf of us and the federal government to be able to help us bring that season back.
Why should a law group in California give a shit about what Louisiana does with their bear season?
Well, you wouldn't think they would, but I think a lot of it kind of comes back to some of the conversations we've been having over the course of this morning, and talking about the fact that a lot of these, groups that do not want to see conservation go to the point where we have hunting seasons. They just want these animals to be out. A lot of people don't want to see their teddy bear shot, but when you read the story of Teddy Roosevelt, you kind of understand the true pride of being a sportsman. And anytime that we're working with conservation, that's really what the goal is, to be able to make sure that we have these animals to the point where we can sustain them in their habitats, and also be able to lead them to a hunting season. And, being able to show conservation in that light is really an incredible opportunity for us here at the department.
So I want to switch gears. I want to go to rowing. This is something that I know nothing about. I know nothing about rowing. What's the workouts like? Because I've only seen like clips of rowing. Like you got to get, all the clips they're out there like at dawn or whatever, and they're doing their workout. Like is that accurate, or like what's the normal day of a college athlete that's on the rowing team?
It is. It's a lot of early mornings and late nights. A lot of times we would row on the Scioto River in Ohio. And so we would go to our boathouse every morning. We'd get there probably around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd go out and row about 20 kilometers. We go in and lift. You go to class all day. And then you came back and did another workout, usually an on-land cardio workout in our what we called an erg room, which is essentially just a rowing room. And we would train out of there. And it was a lot of work. It was a great opportunity, but I think a lot of it transitions to the work like we're doing now. It's a lot of hard work and dedication and kind of loving what you're doing every day. And we have a great opportunity to be able to do that no matter what we do. And having been a college athlete is really an incredible skill that not a lot of people have the opportunity to be able to be a part of a team that has that kind of impact on a university. And takes a lot of work, and it's a different college experience than most people get, but it's definitely worth it.
Now, I'm assuming you did this in high school, right? To go on and do this in college? Is that?
I did not. I had the opportunity to walk onto the Ohio State rowing team. They recruit people through a novice program, and it's essentially a first-time college rower. I'd played soccer my entire life, and I was recruited by a woman who was a former gold medalist in the Beijing Olympics. And I met her, and I realized that the opportunity that I had given her, I would want to see what it would do for me. And I was able to walk on. I absolutely loved the team and the athletes I was around. And, those are some of the strongest women in the world. I have teammates that competed in the Olympics the last couple of weeks. And, being able to work with them, lead them, and be a part of that kind of team is something that really translates into anything you do, whether it's business or running a state department.
Yeah, it's like the Olympics are really the only outlet past college rowing, right? So they have the World Championships, they have the Olympic Championships, and so kind of very similar to a swimming or some of these other sports that aren't necessarily basketball or
some of these other sports that have professional teams. But there are avenues. But and like I said, I have teammates that kind of went on and to do some of those things. But it was a little bit different path for me. Like I said, I had the opportunity to start working for President Trump right away and stayed in politics since.
Who recruits you with the President Trump team? I mean, how does that even fall into your lap?
So actually, a hunting story is kind of where it all comes back to for me. So my dad has always hunted at the same hunting camp my whole life, and one of President Trump's campaign managers in the state of Ohio, a guy named Bob Paduchek, who's an avid hunter and fisherman as well, and I've spent a lot of time in a blind with him. He actually met my dad, and while they were at the hunting camp, and I was with him, and he asked if I'd be willing to come work with him. And kind of I started out door knocking, making phone calls, doing the grassroots stuff that's so important on a campaign that oftentimes gets overlooked, but it's real work on a campaign too. And so he hired me to come do that for him, and I kind of started at the bottom of the ranks, but I got to learn from him, and I got to learn from Corey Lewandowski, if you've ever heard that name before. Yep. Also another avid sportsman, and got to learn from Jane Timken, who ran for Senate in Ohio a couple of years ago, was the chairwoman of Ohio for a long time. Learn from these people that really get ingrained in politics, but they all had one thing in common of being sportsmen. And so I found a connection with them very quickly to be able to get involved. And thanks to a hunting camp I've been hunting at, shot my first deer at, and had the opportunity to do those things, that is the reason I got the chance to work for President Trump.
Did you hate the door knocking? That had to be terrible. You know what I mean? Like, you're going up to strangers and like, hey, what do you think about President Trump? And especially, like you said, he's quite a polarizing guy. So you either love him or you absolutely despise him. There's not a whole lot of middle ground.
Well, absolutely. And I think that was what was so interesting. It was really a customer service job. You learn a lot how to deal with people right away. People will tell you if you want to, go into whatever you want to do, you should do some kind of customer service job first. And having done that, I completely agree that constituent services, that voter services job of really kind of getting the grassroots of things put together, it makes a big difference, but it also teaches you a lot about how to deal with people and interact with folks. And President Trump is one of those people you either love or you hate him, and you're either going to back him or you're going to choose somebody else, and that's something that we're going to have to look at as this election rolls around.
How many times did you have the door slammed in your face?
More times than I could count.
I bet that's true.
Check this one off the list.
It's like now you could be a Jehovah Witness now.
Right? Yeah. Customer service. No, that is something though. Like that is a great introductory job into dealing with people on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Get in customer service, put out a couple fires here and there, and really cut your teeth that way.
Absolutely. It was a great opportunity, and it really allowed me to kind of rise through the ranks of a campaign as well and see many different aspects of it. And before heading out and starting working for Governor Noem, it really was an incredible opportunity. I managed a small team while we were there. I ended as one of their election state directors as well. And so I had a team working for me, and it was really an incredible opportunity, but it is a first step in customer service, constituent services, and really working with the voter every day.
So what happens when Landry wins and now you're in your position? Is there just like a complete overhaul of these agencies and these positions like yours? Like, there was somebody before you, so like you just come in and take their office the next day?
Absolutely. So when the governor won, we went through a transition period. We worked very closely with the previous administration that was in here, and kind of started to make sure that the folks that stay within government, even as government overturns, we've got about 12 positions in our agency that are essentially appointed by the governor. And so all of those positions were replaced with folks that now, work under me and work for my team. And what Governor Landry really wanted us to do was be able to run these agencies like businesses, to prioritize the people of Louisiana. And when we took over this agency in particular, I told our team we were going to do three things. We were going to serve the sportsmen of Louisiana. We were going to make all our decisions to make sure that we had the best possible resources for the sportsmen of this state. we were going to rebuild and rebrand. The previous administration that was in this office had some very controversial issues that they were dealing with, and some folks that got in trouble for doing things they shouldn't have been doing with the powers of this office. And so we really wanted to rebrand to the folks of Louisiana and say, look, we're going to be here for you now. We're going to listen to you and listen to your issues, and really meet you where you're at, whether that's out in the field or at our headquarters when you come in and buy a hunting license, a fishing license. And the third thing is that we were going to be a professional service organization, that we were going to make modern and professional decisions, that we were going to bring some of our IT online so you could always have access to your hunting and fishing license no matter where you were at. We were going to treat folks like they were professionals, and that we were going to look at modern data management practices and modern land practices, and really not accept the way things that were done in the past, and overhaul the agency to the point where we would be a high performing team that could serve the people of Louisiana and make those decisions and make better decisions every day. And, this executive team that we were able to bring on does that on a daily basis. We've got an incredible staff here of biologists, of enforcement agents, of technicians, and our licensing folks. And we, really put in the work every day for the people of Louisiana. And, you can agree with every decision we make. You can disagree with every decision we make, but at least you're going to know why we made those decisions, and we can stand on that every day.
Is that an awkward period when you're like, hey, I got your job, so like, are you going to help me, or are you going to be a dick about everything?
Well, of course. I mean, it's always one of those things. And luckily, there was a really great team here at the department that was willing to help and wanted a smooth transition for the staff that's staying. Like I said, we've got about 800 people in this department. So if 12 of them are leaving, those 12 people can make it much worse for those 800, or they can make it great. And we were one of the agencies that was fortunate enough to be able to have a very smooth transition. And with a leader like Governor Landry, I mean, there's few like him in the country that really want to lead the people of Louisiana for the better and make great decisions. And having been an avid sportsman his whole life, it's really an incredible opportunity to be able to work with him and be around him.
I got to imagine there's some times where the transition is not so smooth.
Oh, that happens a lot.
Like,
absolutely.
I'm not going to give you the password to that computer. Are you kidding? Like something as ticky-tacky as that. Like, you're not getting that. Like, whatever. Get a new one. I don't care.
Oh, you learn, like, the first month, a lot of it's what's you're figuring out is where the keys are at to the building, right? And so a lot of what we were trying to do in the first couple months is try to make that transition the smoothest when if folks didn't want to work with us or not. But like I said, we were really lucky in this department to have a lot of great staff that was willing to work with us and really have made a lot of changes for the better and for the sportsmen of the state very quickly, which we're very proud of, whether it's talking about the bear season, the enforcement pay raise, or even looking at our data management practices, our licensing practices, and what we're doing on a daily basis here in this department. It's really been an incredible opportunity for us.
So I know you don't want to look too far into the future because you've got this incredible job now, but what are the next steps in your career? You're in your 20s still. You got a long time. What's the higher goal?
Well, right now I'm very focused on the state of Louisiana, the people of Louisiana, and making the sportsman's paradise better every day. And, every opportunity I get to learn from folks like Governor Landry, Governor Noem, President Trump, and we look forward to being able to work closely with a new administration coming in and seeing what kind of impact we make. I am 27. I've never been shy about my age and the fact that I do have goals, and I am always looking forward to making an impact, but I've always wanted to serve people and be able to make a difference in the work that I do every day and be able to tell the story of the people that oftentimes aren't heard. And I think that's a lot of what we're trying to do here every day and really highlight the sportsman's paradise in that process.
So do you have aspirations to be governor one day, president?
Politics calling your name?
If I had the opportunity for run for governor, I think I would take it.
In Louisiana or in Ohio?
I would like to move back home and do that back home, given the opportunity. But we've got about hopefully 8 years of Governor Landry. We're going to work hard, make sure it's 8 years, and then be able to go home and be with my family after that. And given the opportunity to run for governor in Ohio would be an incredible opportunity, and I would definitely take that.
Got to have goals in this world,
Yes, you do.
Might as well have big goals. Everybody's got goals, so you might as well have a big one. And I can't think of a bigger one than being the governor of state of Ohio, or any state really for that matter. Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. I know you are a busy lady, and we don't want to take up too much of your time. So we appreciate you coming on here. Go have a good lunch. You said you're going to Chimes probably?
We are. Yes, absolutely.
We'd love to have you come out
lunchtime.
and shoot some speckle bellies with this year.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you want to come out when the boss team's here November 18th to 20th, we'd love to have you as a guest out here. You'd be more than welcome here.
That would be great. We'd love to join you. Thank you for having me today. It's a great opportunity for us to talk about the Sportsman's Paradise, and we look forward to hosting you here again. It was great to meet you all, and thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Be safe.
God bless Louisiana, and God bless Donald Trump and the United States of America. Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Bye.
Great lady. Very interesting. I would have never guessed she was 27 years of age.
Why not?
She's just, when I talked to her.
How old are you going to put her at, Jeff?
Oh, I didn't know how old she was. She's just very mature for a 27-year-old.
She is.
That's what I'm getting at.
Very polished.
Because she had told me what she had done before.
Yeah.
And I would have never guessed 27.
I was not that polished at 27.
No, I damn sure
Still
wasn't.
not that polished.
No. She got a lot more going on than I ever had in my life. Smart lady. Really tough job. Interesting job. And I can't think of a more diverse state than Louisiana when it comes to hunting. I really don't. From the crawfish to the duck hunting, to the gators, to the nutria, to the swamps, to the Venice fishing. I mean, they got everything there. Bear hunting, deer. They got great deer hunting.
Texas
is different too because we are so diverse because we're so big.
Right.
But they are such an
In a
interesting,
compact area.
Yes, they're so interesting. I would not want to be a game warden in Louisiana. Could you imagine those back swamps?
Yeah, that'd be. I don't want to be a game warden here though.
You ever you ever listen to the song Amos Moses? Sent the sheriff to go down and look for him because he was killing them gators with a stump. Never seen him again.
Yeah, but I mean, having to go to the border.
I wouldn't want to do that crap either.
Stuff.
It's a crappy deal.
Tough. Well, we appreciate everybody listening. It's been a great week, and we hope that everybody is safe. August is here. August is flying by. We're already a week into August, so hunting season will be here before we know it. September 1. Go time for everybody. So enjoy the waning days of summer. We love you. Bye. Watch for deer. And go check out all of our sponsors. Go check out Mallard Bay, Hemp Hill Farm. Use our promo code VHP. Alpha Outdoor Specialty, Stanfield Outfitters, Mossberg, Double T British Kennels, Mitch Hall Chevrolet, Ducks Unlimited, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Shen Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Calls. We have a promo code there too, VHP25. Boss Shot Shells, and MLR Graphics.